He's just so happy. Oh, I love Paul's chicken korma. I don't have any feelings for you. I wasn't in love with you. I didn't have a ring ready to propose marriage to you. We didn't have a daughter together in another timeline that I'm probably aware of at this point. None of that happened. I'm just happy to sit here in the cuck chair and watch MJ be fake happy. You might not even realize this, but I don't believe Zeb Wells is technically supposed to be writing Amazing Spider-Man anymore. But whoever they hired to be the new ASM writer wasn't available. And then Joe Kelly couldn't come on for 8 Deaths of Spider-Man to be like the fill-in writer. And they asked Zeb Wells to do a few more issues to kind of fill in the gap. And I imagine they gave him a hefty little paycheck, a little bit of scratch to make it worth his time. I don't think people really like Zeb Wells' Amazing Spider-Man run. But this week we did get issue 56, also known as a milestone issue, Amazing Spider-Man 950, John Romita Jr. returning to the title, and Zeb Wells returning to the only story during his 2-year run here on Amazing Spider-Man that ever really kind of worked, the Tombstone story. Although that one kind of fell apart once you get to Gang War. And there's so many things that Zeb Wells has introduced during his ASM run that I think people would like to never see again. You know, I don't ever want to be reminded of Dark Web or the fact that there's a mailbox that's the embassy to Limbo in New York City, because I think that's really bad. I don't want to be reminded of Gang War, which this comic book obviously does. I don't want to be reminded of the Spider Goblin. I don't ever want to hear the words Winkler device ever again. Not that Zeb Wells invented that, but he sure did ruin it. There's just lots of bad stuff, things that people will feel at the end of this best forgotten, but one thing trumps them all. That's fucking Paul. Everybody essentially agrees that Paul is an abomination, one of the worst characters ever introduced, not in the history of Amazing Spider-Man, not in the history of all Spider-Man comic books, not in the history of Marvel Comics, not in the history of the big 2 comic books, but just in storytelling in general. That's how wasteful, how lame, how stupid this Paul character is, and the fact that MJ doesn't want to be with Peter because she's got Paul. And it's just this stupid black cloud hanging over Spider-Man, and they really haven't mentioned Paul lately in ASM. They kind of forgot about him. You only really saw him in Black Cat and Jackpot, wherever that stupid comic book was. That's the last place I remember seeing him. This week, we get a pretty decent issue of Amazing Spider-Man 56, and if it was just the first story with John Romita Jr. on art, I don't know that I would recommend it, but I wouldn't recommend people avoid it. Let's put it that way. It was perfectly fine. Tombstone story, picking up on some of the stuff that he's done that was successful. But then there's just these 3 weird-ass backup stories. I believe they're all written by Zeb Wells as well. The first backup story, which is actually the second story in the comic book, actually sets up a big reveal in the first story. That doesn't make any sense to me, but if you're wondering why She-Hulk and Luke Cage showed up, it's explained, kind of, I guess, in that second story, which was really bad. And then the third story is a fucking Paul story. And I find it offensive that Paul is even still in Amazing Spider-Man. This character should have been adios years ago at this point. They knew as soon as they introduced him, everyone hated him. He's still there, and now I hate him that much more because I don't like what Zeb Wells is doing. Look at this page. This is what they have Peter Parker doing. He's the third wheel now because he's in the cuck chair, right? Because he's Spider-Cuck. He's no longer Spider-Man. You can't consider him a man anymore after seeing stuff like this, which I find just absolutely repulsive. Peter Parker went over to MJ and Paul's apartment, I guess, for Indian food night. And MJ says, "Thanks for coming over for dinner, Peter." Are you kidding, MJ? Paul's chicken korma is always worth the trip. You want more? You want to take some with you? Nah, figure I'll swing home and see if I spot any trouble. Never a night off. You know me, fighting crime is a passion and a responsibility, I heard. So Peter Parker has now been reduced to the point that he's just going over there and forgetting that this is the woman that he loves, the woman that he's always loved, the woman that he had an engagement ring in his pocket waiting to pull out during the end of Nick Spencer's Spider-Man run. After he was going to wipe out one more day, they were going to get married likely right at the end of that thing. And I guess Zeb Wells and Nick Lowe and Marvel Comics just hate Spider-Man fans so much. The fact that they actually wanted that we're getting crap like this. Paul, the biggest waste of space in Marvel Comics, is now getting a feature story in the backup. And not only are we getting a feature story of Paul, we're getting it shoved in Peter's face because apparently he's just spider cuck at this point. He's just all jolly shucks. Really love your chicken korma, Paul. This isn't the woman that I love, the woman that I want to marry, the woman I was supposed to have children with, did have children with, and then gave it all up. Although it could be debated that MJ was the one to do that. He's not fighting for anything anymore. He's just happy to be there and get to see her with the dude. Now, there are certainly a lot of spineless men out there that probably would behave like this, but certainly not a superhero, not a real man, no hero of any actual stature that actually had any self-worth or value to themselves would treat themselves to this. And you're not only subjecting the character Peter to it, and he's a fictional character, but you're subjecting the readers to it. And it's all on purpose. It's by design because they don't like us. They don't want you to be happy. They don't like you. They don't like the fact that you want Peter to be a certain way, and they will do everything that they can to never give it to you. Thankfully, we do have Ultimate Spider-Man, and it's giving you a little bit of what you want. Although technically, if it's not happening in the fucking 616, it don't count because this is the stuff that's actually in continuity, and in 20 years will actually still matter. Paul will still matter. MJ and the two kids in Ultimate Spider-Man will be forgotten by that point, and it's just such a wasted opportunity. And I don't know why they keep shoving this character down our throats. Seeing him once a year is one time too many. We should never, ever see Paul again. This character is universally reviled, yet he's still there. And like I said, it's a feature story about Paul because Paul, in the other pocket universe where he met MJ and his dad became way up or something stupid like that. I think his dad's name is Benjamin. There was an employee named Kale. And in that universe, Kale worked for Paul and his father, and he developed a piece of science that created a statue that had all these hieroglyphs on it. They didn't know what it meant, but then his dad became consumed with way up and then killed Kale, who had asked for time off or some type of bonus to deal with medical issues. And then you get this weird thing. I almost thought that the final reveal of this was going to be kind of good for fans. That in fact, Paul was gay and was in love with Kale, but I don't think that's supposed to be like a tender, loving embrace. I think he's maybe checking his pulse, but the artist did it really oddly. So there you go. We didn't get the good news that Paul is in fact gay and he's just kind of playing it off and MJ's his beard or something like that, which would be welcome news, I think, to Spider-Man fans everywhere, and certainly MJ and Spider-Man fans, and would be welcome news to the LGBTQ community. They would have another Spider-Man adjacent character in there. No, he's going to still be the character that he was, I guess. And who that character is, I'm not really sure. Is he a stay-at-home dad? Is he a genius? Is he a James Tynion lookalike? Is he an Arnold Schwarzenegger lookalike? I don't know, because he's been all of those things, and then none of them all at the same time. It's the most limp dick, lame-ass character ever introduced, and I think it's going to define the legacy of Zeb Wells on Spider-Man, and he's attempting to get you to like the character of Paul here, and I just don't think it works. So Kale died in the other universe, and now there's a Kale in this universe who I don't think actually worked for his dad, but was doing some type of scientific experiments and got laid off and fired and does still have these medical issues. And now Paul is going to pay for his cure. He's going to pay for all that stuff because now all of a sudden he's a good guy, even though I don't think his father is the one that actually fired him, because I don't think his father exists in this universe, because I don't think Paul exists in this universe either. But I'm terribly confused by all this, but this is clearly another version of that Kale character, and now he's going to save him. We're supposed to like the character. And you know what? I'm not buying it. I don't like Paul any more than I did before this. In fact, I like him less. Now that I know that he's paying for a cure that he can't afford, it makes me think that Paul's out there slinging drugs, probably selling them to little kids. He's probably out there pimping ladies out. He's clearly stealing diamonds or something. There's something about Paul that ain't on the up and up. The only way that boil on a cow's ass could ever afford a fucking Happy Meal from McDonald's as if he got a job. And as far as I can tell, he ain't got a job. He is a fucking sponge. He is sponging off of MJ, destroying all of her assets, probably driving up all of her credit card bills. Paul is a fucking loafer. He's a lowlife, and he's clearly stealing that money and giving it to Kale, maybe because he loves him, but probably not because he loves him, but because he feels guilty that his dad killed him in another universe that wasn't really him, and I don't believe actually fired him in this universe, but he's still sick. But Paul does not have the means or capability to pay for this. He's clearly a fucking scoundrel. He's out there, he's a criminal, and I think he's running an illegal drug enterprise, probably selling marijuana cigarettes to children on fucking playgrounds or something like that to be able to afford to actually take care of something like that. This Paul is a fucking piece of shit, and I know it, and I can tell you after this issue when he tried to cure this dude because he felt guilty, I hated him even more because I know that he's taking advantage of MJ and he's rubbing it in Peter's face, and I can't take it anymore. Nobody should be taking this anymore. I don't know why I'm completely bought into it because this Amazing Spider-Man series has been terrible, and Zeb Wells has certainly shown his ass to the Marvel Comics fans, but this Paul character, he's got to go. He's clearly a bad guy. He's a criminal. He's a thug. He's a scoundrel. If he was in Gotham, Batman would beat the shit out of him on a daily basis until he left the city because he would know too, this dude is up to no good. He's paying for cures that he can't afford, and he doesn't even have a job. Get a job, you freaking bum. Stop leeching off MJ. Let her go out there and experience the real world, the love of her life. Actually experience how great it would be to be with Peter. I don't know why she's not with Peter. I don't know why she's still holding him against him. Peter's technically the one that actually saved her and all that kind of stuff. But for some reason, Peter's in the cup chair. He's just so happy. Oh, I love Paul's chicken korma. I don't have any feelings for you. I wasn't in love with you. I didn't have a ring ready to propose marriage to you. We didn't have a daughter together in another timeline that I'm probably aware of at this point. None of that happened. I'm just happy to sit here in the cup chair and watch MJ be fake happy with his fucking loser. And we shouldn't have to put up with this. That's what all I got to say on this, dude. Marvel Comics hates us. They never want to do anything for Spider-Man fans other than an Ultimate Spider-Man, which is like the slowest of slow burns. Like, can we see Spider-Man actually win something? It's actually been 8 months. He's defeated 0 villains in that fucking series. At least sometimes he might get a victory here and there. Not with MJ or in his love life, but maybe he'll get a victory over a villain in Amazing Spider-Man. But in Ultimate Spider-Man, no bueno. Why can't we just combine the best elements of both of them and actually have a functioning Spider-Man book that everyone could enjoy? That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying, people. I don't think it's too much to ask. And if you need a friendly reminder of just how bad Zeb Wells' Amazing Spider-Man run has been, we've run the gamut on lots of topics, and I picked this one as the very best example of Zeb Wells showing his ass in the Marvel Comics universe and why he never should have got this gig in over his head.